So he told them to put out their nets, and they got such a catch of salmon, and they were so thrilled with themselves, they were too busy then to give them a lift across the Nanny. So, in thanking them for not giving them a lift across, he banished the salmon from the Nanny.
Right.
So the Nanny is salmon-free.
Very potentiated, dynamised by a vortex of stirring and introducing air and doing it at the right time of year.
This is layman's terms you're telling me though, this is now, is it? Yeah.
This is layman's terms, yeah.
Right, okay.
I don't want to get too technical.
No, well that's I'm grateful for that.
Around this point we give them a little mirror, and they can stand still or walk with it, and they look into the mirror, hold it under the nose, and it's like they're walking in the trees. And so they get the reflection of all the trees coming down into the mirror, and they look up and they love it. It's often one of the most popular parts of the tour.
Lovely idea. When I was a student living in Dublin in the century before this one, I had a Canadian friend who regularly left the city to visit relatives who lived in a seaside village further up the coast, where she would stay for a few days. At the time, I regarded this as a kind of onerous duty she had to perform in order to keep her family at home happy. And I admired her stoicism when she would deny any hardship in leaving behind the thrills and excitement of the metropolis. She would simply smile and say, "It's not far away, but it's a completely different world up there, and the people are lovely." That's many years ago, and it's taken me all this time to travel to that seaside village to discover it for myself. And you know what? I now know exactly what she meant. Welcome to Laytown on the east coast of Ireland in County Meath. The sprawling county of Meath has a relatively narrow foothold on the eastern coast of Ireland, almost crowded out by the much smaller counties of Louth to the north and Dublin to the south. But the section of coastline where it does dip its toes into the Airy Sea is pure gold. Golden sand, that is, mile after mile of it. Mind you, it wasn't really until the late 19th century, when the notion of seaside holidays came into vogue, that the people of Laytown in the townland of Ninch or Anincha began to appreciate that their tiny village held the key to the happiness of the multitudes. After all, what is the function of a seaside resort other than to create happy memories? A village could have no higher calling, you might say, and Laytown certainly answers that call. It's helped in this regard by the fact that it shares this golden strand with its like-minded neighbours a little further to the north, Bettystown and Mornington. All three villages hugging the coastline that stretches from the estuary of the River Boyne down to where the River Nanny defines the limits of the Laytown strand and keeps a sentinel watch on any salmon that might be inclined to defy St. Patrick's ancient curse. Ancient or not, the legend of that curse is still invoked by modern fishermen to explain the legendary absence of said fish in the Nanny. The man beside me will elaborate further. Historian Sean Collins is a native of Drogheda, so you won't be surprised to hear that his particular area of expertise is the River Boyne. But today I've invited him to join me at the point where the lesser-known River Nanny meets the Laytown beach. He wasn't hard to persuade, because this is an area that holds many of his happiest childhood memories. Yes, even historians have those.
In those days, Joe, when the sun would shine from the 1st of June onwards, I recollect much better summers. CIE would run a daily excursion train, and the mothers would gather all the children and bring them up the Dublin Road on that trek to the train, and they paid sixpence return to come to Laytown in old single carriages with pull-down windows. And we'd arrive here at the beach to enjoy the sunshine and enjoy the beach. I think we often swam in the fog, but it's a great sort of technicoloured memory, I suppose.
Well, I mean, look, it's a glorious day today.
Indeed it is.
It's a bit windy,
Yeah.
but you tell me that's a kind of that's part of the climate here.
That's a taken, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You could observe the coast from Island's Eye at Skerries behind us, right down to where the mountains are more and sweep down to the sea. It's a bit cloudy today,
well,
but they're there.
Earlier on we were able to see them in an outline at least anyway. So being a holiday resort, it doesn't have that ancient a pedigree, in other words. It doesn't go back centuries and centuries.
Well, from a point of view of settlement, they reckon the area was settled from about from 500 AD.
Right.
There's evidence of settlement here.
Right.
And a little further down at Bettystown, they had a major archaeological dig in 2000, and upwards on 50 Bronze Age burials were discovered.
Right.
And much evidence of settlement there, even a little bit of more Viking visit than Viking settlement.
The name Laytown, we know we've discussed this already, and it's a strange name if you just come across it. I suppose Bettystown, but that's another story, right?
Yes, indeed.
But Laytown derives really from Celtic legend.
Yes, indeed. Just outside the town, there's a mound, as we call it locally,
Okay.
where it's said that Lay, Cuchulain's charioteer, it's said to be the burial place of Lay. The area is known as the Ninch or the Hincha, the Holm, but that would be more the townland.
Right.
The village of Laytown, I would suggest, gets its name from Lay. But the notion of Lay and his mound on the way into Laytown, you know, I always think it links in great with the notion of St. Patrick,
Right.
related very much here to the Nanny, the tradition of St. Patrick and the Nanny. You know, they always said that St. Patrick, in bringing Christianity, brought an end to the ancient Ireland, the island of Usheen and Grania and Tionanog and Cuchulainn and Setanta and Finn McCool. The Christian bells saw an end to all that. So here at the Nanny, it's said that St. Patrick arrived at high tide and he wanted to cross the Nanny, and the local fishermen said they would take him across, but they complained bitterly that they could catch no fish in the river. So he told them to put out their nets, and they got such a catch of salmon, and they were so thrilled with themselves they were too busy then to give him a lift across the Nanny. So, and thanking them for not giving them a lift across, he banished the salmon from the Nanny.
All right.
So the Nanny is salmon free, and that's a tradition from St. Patrick's time.
And it's true, there are no salmon.
Oh, there are no salmon in the river. The river flows into the centre of County Meath.
Right. So if St. Patrick threatened something, he carried it out?
Obviously he carried it out, yeah, there's no doubt about it. You know the way he got rid of the snakes, and
Yes.
they always say he mislensed the house, but he did get rid of the rest
Well,
of
I
the
know
snakes.
that's
You know that story.
There's a story as well. There's a lake down in Wexford which I visited where he actually banished the snakes there.
Oh, right.
Right.
Okay,
I know.
okay.
That's another story.
That's
again.
another story. Yes. Anyway,
So anyway, the Nanny's never had any salmon, and this story
The Nanny has never had
is
salmon.
the explanation for it.
that's always the explanation for it. Although in summertime you will see men fishing here at the mouth of the Nanny,
Right.
and they say they're fishing for bass salmon.
Bass salmon.
Now, whatever bass salmon are, I've never found out, but
Right.
I saw them on many occasions in my childhood.
Right.
And remarkably, when the motorway opened, you know, on the motorways nowadays, you will always see a brown sign where there's a river. You'll see River Boyne, River Nanny.
Yeah.
About a mile south of here, you see the River Bradon, which is salmon.
Salmon.
So I don't know if there's a link to that and the Nanny. But
Well, it is strange that the Nanny's here, and not that far away is the Boyne.
That's right.
Right? You're the expert on the Boyne. And we know, we've been discussing this earlier, that we agree, or the experts have even told us as well, that the Boyne salmon is the best in the country.
Oh,
and the
indeed
Boyne
they
is
do.
full of salmon.
indeed it is.
But the thing we haven't mentioned at all, which Laytown is famous for throughout the country, if not the world, is the horse racing.
The horse racing, yeah. Since 1868, the first meeting on the beach is recorded. Very much reminiscent in my childhood of the scene of The Quiet Man. You remember where they raced along the beach?
Yeah.
But because of a bad accident in 1994,
Yeah.
they've now controlled it. It's
Right.
much shorter and smaller than it used to be.
Okay.
It's based from a field that's up above the beach. Whereas in my childhood, we all stood on the beach and watched it.
And watched it.
And there was great excitement with all the colours, and it was a special day out
Right.
to come to Laytown races. The joke always was on radio programmes or quiz shows, could you name a racetrack that was watered twice a day? You know, because the tide comes in twice.
Of course,
so
so they
Laytown
have to wait
track-
for the low tide.
Exactly,
Right.
but there's a great atmosphere at that, there really is.
Yes, Laytown makes great use of its vast expanse of strand at low tide, and plays host annually to the only race meeting in Ireland to be held on a beach under the official rules of racing. Before that accident that Sean referred to, the horses would run along the beach and make a U-turn at Bettystown before racing back again. Nowadays, they don't have to run so far, and they run in a straight line. It's a racetrack that's also popular with the human population, and you can trek all the way to Bettystown and beyond, indeed all the way to the mouth of the Boyne without hindrance if you've got the stamina. If you were to make the same journey by road, even if you're not of any particular religious persuasion, you might be drawn to the remarkable creation of architect Liam McCormick that is the Church of the Sacred Heart in Laytown. The freestanding facade is retained from the earlier 19th century building, but it's connected by a glass tunnel to a 1970s church whose east window frames a wooden cross overlooking the Irish Sea. It's a perfect space for communion. And further along the road, you'll come to bustling Bettystown. As Sean Collins told us, Laytown may have got its name from Cuchullin's charioteer. So did Bettystown get its name from a woman named Betty? Most definitely not, is the answer. It gets its name from this area's ancient reputation as a place of welcome and hospitality.
The original Irish name of the place is Baia and Beata, which translates as the townland of the Beata. The word Beata is derived from bia, the Irish word for food. And the Beata performed one of the most important roles in medieval Gaelic society because he would be charged by the lord of his clan with ensuring that food, accommodation and hospitality be provided for visitors to that chieftain's territory and also for visitors of peaceful intent who might be passing through. In order to carry out such duties, the Beata would be required to keep open a hostelry whose welcome would reflect the power, the status and the generosity of the lord that he served.
The surname Beatty is derived from the same source, and in fact Beattystown was the anglicised version of the name used in the past. Place names are important repositories of history and culture, and surely something of importance would be lost if future generations of Bettystown inhabitants were unaware of the ancient and honourable tradition to which their town belongs. The name Mornington, we're told, originates in the 13th century with a Norman sea captain called Robert the Mariner, while the Maiden Tower, which was built in the 16th century as a navigational aid to all mariners approaching the mouth of the River Boyne, is said to have been named in honour of the Virgin Queen Elizabeth I. And while we're on the subject of place names, here's one which could mean a sustainable way to live on the earth. A visit to Sonerta in Laytown when we come back. There's a rath dating from the early Christian period on a hilltop near the mound which Sean Collins tells us is associated with Lay, the mythical charioteer of Cuchulin. From here you could overlook the tidal valley of the River Nanny as it snakes its way under the railway bridge and into the sea at Laytown. From here also you can overlook the 18th century manor house and walled garden which for the past 30 years has been the chosen site of Sonerta Visitor Eco Centre and Gardens. Sonerta is an Irish word meaning positive strength, but it's also an acronym for all the things this organisation stands for. Sustainable development, organic growing, nature conservation, appropriate technology, inner peace, recycling, reducing, trading fairly, and most importantly, education. In short, Sonerta is about how we should treat the earth and ourselves if we want future generations to thrive on it. It's also very much an active working organic food producer and tries to sustain itself, partly at least, through selling its produce either directly to the local population or through farmers' markets in Dublin and elsewhere. Sonerta depends on the participation of like-minded willing volunteers, on visitors on the learning quest, but most of all on pioneering gardeners like Andrew Jordan, whose holistic philosophy might be challenging, but it's also highly effective.
You have to provide people with what they want, or are you trying to introduce them to stuff that they're not really familiar with yet?
Well, a little from column A, a little from column B, because we don't want to alienate people by foisting new and exotic vegetables that we like. So we basically try and provide the old favourites like tomatoes and potatoes and heads of lettuce and strawberries and onions and all the obvious.
There is a market for all those things, obviously.
Yeah, well, like we have in this bed here we have carrots, beetroot, spinach, lettuce, all the obvious ones that people want. This would be a kind of a microcosm of what's going on in the rest of the garden.
Yeah.
And the reason that we're trying to provide a full diet, really, a full range of vegetables, is because we want to supply a veg box for people every week so that they don't have to go elsewhere for their vegetables. And it's always going to be seasonal. It's always going to be fresh.
Right.
And
there's a few patches here, I see. Well, there's a big potato patch down here near
that's
the
right,
bank of the river. Is that a particular kind of variety of potato? That...
They're a Hungarian breed. They're supposed to be blight resistant, but nothing is totally foolproof.
Well, that was the question I was going to ask next. What do you do in the event that you have to prevent blight or deal with blight?
Well, we use biodynamic sprays in order to increase the strength of the cell structure.
Right.
So they're more resistant and their immune system is stronger as
For
well.
my benefit, just very briefly in layman's terms, what's a biodynamic spray? What does that mean?
Well, biodynamic agriculture was introduced by Rudolf Steiner in the 1920s, and it's grown steadily around the world ever since. In some countries more than others, not so much in this country.
Right.
And it's basically a school of agriculture that looks holistically at the nature around it and the whole system.
So what are you actually spraying in that biodynamic
Well,
spray?
they're basically extracts of different medicinal plants.
Right.
Very potentiated, dynamized by a vortex of stirring and introducing air and doing it at the right time of year.
This is layman's terms you're telling me though, listen now, is it? Yeah.
This is layman's terms, yeah.
Right, okay.
I don't want to get too technical.
No, well that's all right. I'm grateful for that. Anyway, it's effective, is it? I mean, does it do the job? That's the main thing.
It's very effective, yeah.
Right. So whenever you came here, Andrew, I mean, this was in your own background, your own training and all the rest of it, your own experience already. So was this a place that you were aware of and knew that I can do my stuff here, in other words? Or
well, I was aware of it, all right.
or what?
I was aware of it, and I was involved in similar things, the aims of this place.
Yeah.
I never dreamed I'd have the opportunity to take over the garden and see if I could demonstrate what I'd been learning for years, which is about biodynamic and biointensive agriculture.
Right.
The important thing is that it's fresh and it's natural and it's available locally and affordably as well.
While Andrew deals with the fruit, the vegetables and the science, Claire McEnany manages the other main aspect of Sonerta's output, which is a better informed, better motivated public. Their philosophy is one of education through fascination and fun. And to that end, Claire takes me on a walk along one of their nature trails, skirting the banks of the Nanny just beyond the walled garden.
Is that a kind of adjunct to the Sonerta Centre? I mean, this is part of the experience of
It is. We very much use this particular stretch because it's long and straight and it's very pretty, and we use what they could do the mirror walk. So when we come along here with the children, we give them around this point. We give them a little mirror, and they can stand still or walk with it, and they look into the mirror, hold it under the nose, and it's like they're walking in the trees. And so they get the reflection of all the trees coming down into the mirror, and they look up and they love it. It's often one of the most popular parts of the tour.
Idea.
And then just up here we have the little outdoor classroom, and so we sit and we have a classroom session up there with the children, so they're engaging in what they've learnt or going to see or whatever. So
I would imagine children just love to be out here
really
rather than being in the classroom.
Yeah,
or
it's
a normal
a very popular spot up
right.
here. All right.
So education is a big part of what you do
That's
at
right.
Sonerta Centre.
Yes.
I'm reaching in my pockets here because now these are windfall, right?
Yes.
We didn't pick them off the trees. Very important. These are windfall, and these are part of your. So is it a heritage orchard?
Yes,
really,
our heritage apple collection. That's right.
Now these ones here are. I'm not sure what. Lovely names for some.
Lady Southerly.
Lady Southerly,
Yes.
right? And this one is a very unusual name.
Yeah, it's the blood of the boyne.
Blood of the boyne.
And nowhere near as sweet
really?
as the modern
Right.
apples.
So these would be quite rare, in other words, all of these
Yeah, I
apples.
think they're probably lurking around in some people's gardens. Maybe they don't really know what they are. But obviously they're very old Irish apples.
I'm dying to taste the blood of the boyne to see what it would. I assume that it has that name because of some property of the apple. I know it's red.
Yeah.
Okay, but
It's just starting, yes. Give it another month. It's probably very tart at the moment for you.
it's actually quite. I
Is
like
it?
tart.
Yeah.
I do like tart.
There's-
Yeah, you can see the wee pink
Yeah.
patches.
And it'll get pinker as
when that's
it's,
fully ripe,
yeah, when you bite
bleed
it,
all
it
over
can
the
be.
place.
It's got
Seriously?
a really pink flesh inside. Yeah, it's very unusual.
Everything at Sonnet is going as you would hope that it's going, and it's thriving and so on.
Yes, no,
yeah.
we're always looking to build and develop and grow, and we want the general public to engage with us and our local communities to come in and support us. So, it's very much a work in progress.
And the stuff that you produce as well, I mean, that's very important because that's part of your income, isn't it?
Absolutely, no, the produce, very much so.
Produce,
It's sent to the Dublin Co-op, and we're selling it through our own farmers market here, and also we supply several local restaurants.
So that's a kind of measure of your success, really.
Well, indeed.
Isn't it? I mean, if that's not working, then the rest of it isn't going to work either.
No, it's well, you've seen the wall garden. It's a magnificent space, and it's its own little microclimate in there.
Yes.
'Cause as all wall gardens are, they're slightly warmer, and it really is very productive and fertile in there. So it's
And you have good
special
people.
place. Indeed, we have a wonderful group of volunteers who support us and come down, and we're actually looking at developing some for going into September onwards. Some hobby gardening classes, and one at the weekend and one midweek to accommodate both people that are working and not.
Since my visit here, which occurred in July, a steep increase in their insurance premiums has meant that Sonnerta have had to close all access to the public, though their food production continues as normal. They hope to reopen to the public in the spring of 2018. A hope that I for one share, because it would be a great shame if such an invaluable learning resource were to be closed indefinitely.